Hi, Aubrey.
Hello.
I have a joke for you.
Okay. Is this a dad joke?
I say I have a joke for you. Give me a second. I'm going to ask for a joke. Okay. Please, can I have a joke? Question mark. Okay, here's the joke. Here we go. Get ready to laugh, Aubrey. Why don't skeletons fight each other?
I don't know.
Because they don't have the guts.
Oh, I walked right into that one. That was right there.
So that joke came from Chat HPE, our company workplace assistant AI. I'm not sure it's fine-tuned for jokes. Do you want to hear another joke? Should we do another joke?
Can we make this so-called joke HPE themed?
Yeah, okay. So please, can I have another joke HPE themed? Here we go. All right. This is going to be a good one. I just know it. Okay, here we go. Why did the server go to school?
I don't know.
It wanted to get a better connection. And then, hang on, the joke's not finished. It wanted to get a better connection, open brackets, and trust HPE to deliver those reliable connections, exclamation mark, close brackets.
What a good Chat HPE.
I'm not sure how funny the jokes were, but they were jokes. I'm Michael Bird.
I'm Aubrey Lovell.
And welcome to Technology Now from HPE. So, Aubrey, chatbots are pretty much everywhere, from workplace assistants and voice assistants in our homes to general online chatbots, which can generate conversations and images at the mere click of a button. Aubrey, do you use chatbots in your day-to-day life?
Yeah. So the other day I used it to give me specific dietary needs for my dog who's older. And it was amazing. And in like 30 seconds, I had a full meal plan, grocery list, everything.
Oh, great.
I've used it for even just like exercise planning. In terms of business, though, I also have used it for like with advertising, helping to ideate certain scripts, different headlines for types of banners, etc. So it's really useful.
Well, Aubrey, as you probably know, we have our very own workplace assistant created bespoke for HPE, which is called
Chat HPE.
It is. It certainly is. And that is going to be the topic of today's podcast episode. And we are joined by one of the team who developed it, Jose Mejias, a distinguished technologist who works in the data office here at HPE.
Okay, so that sounds pretty cool. So to set the scene a little bit before we talk about modern workplace assistant, just give me a guess. When do you think the first chatbot was ever created?
Okay, well, computers had to have been invented. So like 50, 60, something like that.
Okay, you're dead on. It was the 60s. And it was created by a person named Joseph Weizenbaum, and it was called Eliza.
Tell me more.
So yes, now it's time for Technology Then. It's 1966, and Professor Joseph Weizenbaum has just announced the creation of a program which produces the illusion of understanding. The chatbot, called Eliza after the character Eliza Doolittle from the book Pygmalion, was accessed from a typewriter which was hooked up to a mainframe. A user could type into the typewriter, and Eliza would reply by typing on the same typewriter, thus allowing a user to hold a conversation with a computer. That's pretty cool. But there was a catch, though, right? There's always a catch, Michael. We know this. The responses were rather, let's call them basic, right? We are obviously used to modern day chatbots, which are remarkably advanced when it comes to simulating human conversation. And Eliza, on the other hand, was obviously not as advanced. So do you want to hear an excerpt from a conversation with Eliza, which was published by Weizenbaum in his paper about the program, Michael?
Yeah, go on then.
So I'll play the user and you can be the chatbot. Our producer has said he will put a filter over you to make you sound more robotic for this. I'm super excited about this. We should do this more often.
I am so excited to sound like a robot.
Okay, here's how the conversation went. Men are all alike.
In what way?
They're always bugging us about something or other.
Can you think of a specific example?
Well, my boyfriend made me come here.
Your boyfriend made you come here?
He says I'm depressed much of the time.
I'm sorry to hear you're depressed.
It's true. I'm unhappy.
Do you think coming here will help you not to be unhappy?
So as you can hear, it's responding to very specific parts of what the user was writing rather than looking at the conversation as a whole. But it's still pretty impressive, right? Especially from the 60s. And one particular interesting thing which Weizenbaum began to notice when people used Eliza was the way they often began to attribute human feelings and characteristics to the program. So this would later go on to be known as the Eliza effect. And this effect didn't just affect strangers. Even Weizenbaum's secretary, who had watched him build the program and knew it was designed to just repeat users' own words back to them, requested that Weizenbaum leave the room after she began to speak to the computer. The Eliza effect is still seen today with other large language models, especially with the size of the modern LLMs and their ability to sound incredibly realistic in the mimicry of human speech.
So, Aubrey, we started with Eliza. Thank you for that. That was really fascinating. But as we talked about at the top of the show, we have our very own chatbot here at HPE to assist staff. To find out more, I spoke to Jose Mejias, an HPE Distinguished Technologist who works in the data office. He and his team created a workplace assistant at HPE called Chat HPE. And I first wanted to know why they did this.
Well, you know that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there was this kind of new models, the large language models, and really took the industry by surprise. That capability that you can talk, you can connect with an entity that knows context, that understands a more natural conversation, and also is being trained by the vast information within the internet. And it changed everything. So right now you can have conversations, natural conversations. It's like having a coworker. It's like having an assistant with you. So it changed everything. Now you don't have to have all this cumulative set of data, points, architecture in my case, that you have to have it all in the book. Now you can rely on those entities to really bring that information to you in the more natural language models. And now it's shifting how you operate, how you work. So all the boring kind of things that you typically do, then you can delegate to that assistant. And now you can focus on what is important, which is bringing value to the enterprise.
And so from a user perspective, what's the user experience for it?
People first were impactful, about it. But one of the key learnings is that you need to learn how to connect and establish a conversation with these entities. This is what is called prompting engineering. So the initial phase is about, hey, how I can interact with it, how I can get the most out of it. And still we're in this phase. So we're doing training, and my recommendation to any kind of enterprise is to invest in training. Once they master prompting engineering, which is how to communicate effectively, then it's where you start realizing. So you can ask questions. I am an architect, so architectural questions, how to manage emails, how to answer emails, how to create presentations, how to focus on that particular area. So you can bring your own documents. In our experience, at the end is creating 4 hours in average of savings in terms of time, and 3 or 4 times exponentially the value of each user.
So how does it actually work sort of under the hood?
People feel that they are intelligent entities like, the physical AI, that it's all vectors. So they predict what is the next word, but it does that in a very intelligent way. So he looks at the entire conversation and put weights about each word in the conversation in order to have semantic understanding. And based on that, it can predict the next word. This is all it does. But then with billions and billions and billions of parameters. And with GPUs, so this general purpose unit that most likely able to do high computations at microsecond levels, this is how it's all coming together. The data about the internet that you have, then these algorithms that can understand semantic language and the way to communicate effectively while maintaining semantic context.
And in terms of the data that this uses, like where is that data sourced from? Is it just sort of all the data we've ever created at HPE?
Well, there are 3 different kinds of data, First, outside data, the internet data, which is all the data that is surrounding all these portals, right? Web.com portals. This is one. Commercial models are trained with their vast set of data within the internet, but they don't have access to your internal data because there are firewalls.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is how you use those commercial large language models in order to interact with your enterprise data. This is where grounding comes. This is a common term, grounding, how you ground your model. So what you do is you need to create a knowledge management systems in which you put your data, your unstructured data, your structured data, your transactional data, and any kind of data. you put it in the format that can be consumed by the system. So you need to vectorize, and then you need to connect this data and make it available. So in Chat HPE, then you're going to see Q&A and summarization, and also RAG. There are 3 functions that you can use where you can upload first your documents, your enterprise documents. You can establish a question and answer session. Also, you can summarize. So this is how we then mix and match internet data, company data, and then there's a third one, which is the transactional data, which also is a real-time data that you can embed to your conversation as well. So these 3 kind of data are really what makes large language models powerful by grounding the large language model within the enterprise data.
And so the big difference between Chat HPE and a large language model that you can just sort of access commercially is our own data.
Yes, sir, our own data. And this is what makes them real powerful for the enterprise. And the connectivity with the external data as well.
So how do you put guardrails on this sort of thing? Because presumably if we have lots of our company data, some of that is going to be quite sensitive. Some of that is going to be confidential to a particular person or a particular group of people. How do you ensure that the right data goes to the right people at the right time?
That's a great question, because that is one of the key differentiator of using external assistant and internal assistant. So we put around 4 things: is guardrails, policy enforcement, making sure that the conversation is without bias, that is in line with the company values, that is grounded properly with the right data. But also we do identity. So we are identified by using our single sign-on, who is the specific user that is interacting. Also, who is authorized, who's not. We're logging all the conversations, the prompts and the responses. But also we would like to democratize in the fair way. So we have quotas. You have a limit or a certain amount of quota per month that you can use. So all these 3 layers that I share with you are critical in order to have safe AI or getting the value out of it. And it's a key differentiator of how we're doing things internally in the enterprise and how the commercial assistance is accessing or enabling person outside the enterprise.
And how do you train these models? Like, what's the process to train it? Is it a pointed at all of our data and it just sort of looks at it? Or is it a more involved process? Is there a data cleansing process as well?
Absolutely. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that you have the right data with the right quality that is present, that is really move the needle. So you ask me how you train. So first, you have to label data, because the process of training is that, hey, this is this word or these following words. This should be the next word. So in order to do that, you have to label data. You have to have a human in the loop that is labeling that data and analyzing this data and determining, for this conversation, for this set of words, this is the next one. But also, in order to speed the process, you create digital twins. You create synthetic data in order to do that. So it's a very computational intensive. This is why we have partnered with a lot of companies that help us with specific products.
And is it sort of a one big batch job to train on all the data, or is it just a sort of continuous?
We generate 3 terabyte to 5 terabyte data per month. So it has to be a continuous process. Data keeps changing. So this field changes. So 1 week seems to be 1 year.
Yeah, because if you're not constantly training on new data, the data set gets old very, very quickly, and it will give you, potentially incorrect answers.
Training is a complex thing. It takes time. So there are other tools that we use in order to try to get this data faster and ground the models. There are patterns that RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, that what you do is basically, rather of training the model, then you add the data, the pertaining data for a conversation to the context window of the model, and then you answer the question. So it's a more efficient, less compute intensive process that are really serving us well. Also, there's technology that model context protocol that allow you to connect real time to system of records. We blend. Always we're looking for efficiency. So RAG, MCPs, fine tuning. Also, there is a third technique. You don't have to train the entire model. You can train only the later layers of the model, and therefore less compute intensive.
And you mentioned RAG a couple of times. For listeners who don't know, can you just give a quick definition of what RAG is and why it's so important?
R is retrieval. A, augmented, then generation, what it means. So you put your documents in a search engine. Then when you're prompting to a model, we send that questions first to the search engine. search engine extract from terabytes of data the pertaining passages for that particular conversation. Then they bring this data to the large language model and then let the large language model answer the question based on this data and using also external data. So it's efficient in the sense that it's very pointful to the conversation you're having and really fast.
Yeah, so you're sort of using existing technology, that sort of search engine technology, which has been around for years, to do the thing that it's good at, and then allowing the large language model to then do the thing that that's good at. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So does Chat HPE or workplace AIs, do they have the ability to interact with other large language models?
Yes. Actually, we built a Chat HPE orchestrator because there's going to be a small models, there's going to be large language models, there are going to be open source models, commercial model, domain model, all kind of model. So we put intelligence on top. When you're having a conversation, the orchestrator knows and will direct you to the right model. In many cases, it might be multiple models in order to extract the best response for your answer. So yeah, it's multimodal, meaning that you can add videos, audio, text, but also it's multimodal in the sense that it's going to be able to tap on multiple models.
And again, like, how do you make sure that sensitive data doesn't get out? Because, I mean, from my understanding, AI models can sometimes be a bit opaque. Like, it's a little bit hard to know what's going on under the hood.
I always get this question about the security of the generation. But think about generation is similar to how you treat your emails, how you treat your Teams conversations. So you are in the driving seat to determine how good this information is, to who you can share, how you should pack this information. So that responsibility still resides on the user, and the user is fully responsible of that. This comes to the topic of hallucination. Oh, we need to be careful because the models hallucinate, and if hallucinate wrongly, then it has a financial impact. Absolutely, this is true. I would like to give you a different perspective of hallucination. This is what makes large language model powerful. Establish relationships that you don't think there might be a relation. So apply one pattern here to a different domain and discover things that you haven't think about. So when talking about hallucination, yes, human in the loop, make sure that it is pointful, is factual, but also let it hallucinate because it's going to help you with your thinking.
How do you think the sort of increase in use of AI systems, sort of workplace large language models, how do you think that's going to impact the way that we do work?
Yes. I read a study saying that in general terms, the large language model, if not used well, is making us dumber, right? I don't know whether you have read that. So it's like that, right? But I think it's going to empower us to get to the next level, to have critical thinking. I always think about how we use this as Sherlock Holmes. What makes Sherlock Holmes great? It's not because he has all the facts. It's that it can connect all the facts and uncover hidden patterns with exponential way to access this knowledge. This is what we should do. We need to become Sherlock Holmes now. So you have models with all your data. So knowing the data is not good enough right now. It's how you then create these new patterns, this new knowledge, this new technology. Large language model cannot create new knowledge. It's trained based on known patterns, but you can use that in order to empower your critical thinking and create new knowledge, new patterns. I think this is the pivot from exponentially empower AI user in the enterprise level.
So what's the future for Chat HPE?
It's going to be reaching all employees in the next couple of months. It's going to be embedded with more models. It's going to then apply to multiple applications. Right now we have 50 plus applications. We are looking for the next 100 application in the next 6 months and impact the entire corporation. So the journey is to pivot into the intelligent enterprise, an enterprise that can sense, that can perceive, that can reasoning, and that can adapt and make intelligent decisions at any point in time to really move the specific KPIs.
That was a really fascinating and interesting conversation, Michael. I really enjoyed it.
What I found really fascinating was Jose and his team have created this system that is using HP's data in creative ways. And I know, there's loads of conversations about AI as it relates to data, and there's lots of thoughts and conversations and sensitive company data, etc. So the fact that actually we can input our own data and as an organization we can use that. Yeah, I just found that really fascinating. I also thought what he said around hallucination was quite interesting. He said something along the lines of like, hallucination can be a good thing. And I guess like in particular, when you're looking at creativity, I think if you know that the model is hallucinating, then actually you could potentially use that for your advantage because it's maybe creating something that didn't exist before.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's kind of like a canvas, right? So if there are those things happening, then it kind of does give you different opportunities to either fix it or maybe it does take you in a different direction. So sometimes little blips like that are a good thing.
And what he talks about sort of bridging to external large language models. Again, that's not something I'd really heard of, but almost creating this single engine that will say, but actually this question doesn't necessarily relate to us as an organization. You're asking about what the weather's like in St. Petersburg, Florida. So I'm going to send that to somewhere else. Or I'm going to query just a database that I know those answers. Like just being clever with where you're routing questions, I think is quite an interesting thing.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think us being able to have that tool, or any company that has their own kind of language model tool with AI, is really important because you think about like intranets and how they work or have worked in the past and how clunky they are, right? So as you're building your knowledge base, it's so important, right? Between enablement, people being able to find things within your company, the questions, the history. I think it's just a better collaboration tool all around to find what you need. So yeah, very interesting.
You are so right about intranets. Intranets are so hard to maintain, but they are so vital for a company. And maybe a new starter, you just give them a window to Chat HPE and just say like, all right, fire out, what questions have you got? And it will just spit out the right answers. Anyway, Aubrey, seeing as this is a podcast about Chat HPE, I thought we should give it the final word. So we asked it to generate an outro for the podcast. Are you ready, Aubrey?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be, Bird.
Producer Harry, can you enhance my voice so I sound like a bit like just 10% robot here? Okay, here we go. Thank you for tuning into Technology Now, the show where we dive into the deep world of Chat HPE and explore how AI is transforming the way we connect, create and solve problems. We hope today's discussion sparked new ideas and gave you some valuable insights into the incredible potential of Chat HPE and conversational AI.
Okay, that brings us to the end of Technology Now for this week. Thank you to our guest, Jose Mejias, and of course to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please do let us know, rate and review wherever you listen to episodes, and if you want to get in contact with us, do make sure you send us an email to technologynow@hpe.com. Subject line, Pygmalion. How's that, Aubrey?
I love it. I was going to say please and thank you, but
please
that's a
and
better
thank you. Please and thank you, Pygmalion. Don't forget to subscribe so you can listen first every week. Technology Now is hosted by Aubrey Lovell and myself, Michael Bird, and this episode was produced by Harry Lampert and Izzy Clark, with production support from Alicia Kempson-Taylor, Becky Bird, Alison Gato, Alyssa Mitri, and Renee Edwards.
Our social editorial team is Rebecca Wissinger, Judy Ann Goldman, and Jacqueline Green, and our social media designers are Alejandro Garcia and Ambar Maldonado.
Technology Now is a Fresh Air production for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. We'll see you at the same time, the same place next week.
Cheers.